That is what I'd like to call an amazing start to a video and to my games. I'm back on Nauvis and I could not believe how incredibly good railguns are. But anyway, there we go. So what are we doing? So this is now the continuation of our series of videos. We're calling this Hex in the City. You'll see why. You'll see why. Before we go, we're going to go and basically to Gleba. We're going to do a little bit of maintenance, which is sorting out some of the kind of big bits on Nauvis that I've never really done. So I thought I'd just include a little montage to show you what we've been doing. For those that don't know, your bots are your buddies. You should totally be using them to build things. Like, I don't bother going out that much anymore. And that's true of life as well. And I don't really kind of see the point, because you might as well basically get the bots to do it for you. As you can see, scientifically done and my clicking, and they just basically go and build everything, which is great. So if you're not using bots like this, do consider it, because it's actually pretty useful. I'm kind of still smarting a bit from literally shooting a railgun through two of my poor little bots. They were actually pretty well kit out as well. I think I just spent a huge amount of time putting legendary and epic level gear into them, so as you can imagine, kind of hurt. Just shows a bit of a monkey scrotum, I think, there for me. A bit of a tit. So what we're doing really is just sort of finishing off Nauvis. So there's a little bit here to sort out in terms of the base. We've done a few bits, and I'll probably do a base tour another time, but doing things like this. So putting some trees, tree production, only just to sort of help with pollution. Post in the comments if it actually does it, because I have no flipping idea if it actually does make a difference, but it looks rather nice. So I thought, yeah, go on then, we'll build a few city blocks that are just great big forests, and I'll quite enjoy that process. And you can see we put basically everything on the southern border is basically there. What else we've done is we've also put in a rail transit system. The correct appropriate response is ooh. The way it works is automated. So the way it works, and here I'm sending out all the bots to go and build the stations at the terminus point. So again, I don't want to go and do it. You see everywhere there's a flash. I've built via blueprint. Again, blueprints waiting, come join the Discord. You can basically set them as little stations that when you approach, the sensor on the station driven by a gate then activates the station, so it knows that you're there, so it will send the little train to come get you, and it will bring you back. I like to think of this as the Terraria recall spell, if you know what I'm talking about there. And if you don't, then you probably went out and touched girls' boobs more than I did as a kid. But Terraria is one of those things that you go like miles into the distance, adventuring and swashbuckling, and then you would make your way back to the base by clicking, I think it was the mirror of recovery or something. And what it did is it basically just recoiled you instantly back to your starting point, your base. And I've always liked games that have that, because I'll be honest with you, I don't really want to travel backwards. Let me show you how it works. So this is just a train station with just a very specific setup. And it works on the fact that the train is basically waiting for an active station to be made active. Oh, by the way, legendary radars, yes from me, they are amazing. Like, I can't believe, and they're easy to make as well. Genuinely surprised how easy they have been to make. Look at how big this coverage is. Look at that, it's pretty good. One little radar does all that, and it's got 8 little zones that it covers. But anyway, I walked up to the little detector, and it detects, it activates the station, and my little choo-choo is on its way to come pick me up. These are now everywhere. So wherever I am, because Nauvis is a huge base, it's got huge, it literally just keeps sprawling. So by building these everywhere, sending the spider bots to go and build them, because I don't want to go out there and build them, but I've got it as a blueprint if I need to. Train arrives, it will wait there until you literally jump in it, and then it flies back. There you go. If you're interested, join the Discord, pester me, and I will maybe try and figure out how to give you a blueprint. But it works. I kind of like it. I think every time I build a distant mining base, I'm going to put one of these in. The next thing to figure out is how to make it so that you can then go to that base. So maybe it's just the other way around. Maybe there's a train always at the base that then will go to a particular location. Anyway, we'll see. So let us now begin our great journey to Gleba. That's right, we're going to the horrible planet. I really hate Gleba, but I think by the end of it, because wait until you see what we've got at the end, because this is going to be something quite special. And I really am quite passionate about this one because, and you'll see why. So, stick with the video, trust me. When it gets to the end, you'll see why I'm actually quite excited for Gleba. Because like we did with Nauvis, we have a lovely city block. We then did the cell manufacturing on Vulcanus, kind of like that. Hope you did too. And if you haven't watched any of those videos, go watch them, because that was an entirely different way of manufacturing and doing things on a planet. And it really rekindled my burning passion for this game. I would say that mixing it up and switching it up is a good way to do that. And we're doing it again with Gleba. So with Gleba, we're going to do it again slightly differently. We're going to have, it is going to be another sort of city block idea, but in a different way, and you'll see. So stick with the video, we'll get there. Gleba to me, I think, represents a challenge, because I think there's a number of interesting kind of ways that this works. So I was having a chat on Discord last night with the Zentoad, who really gave me a good way of thinking of Gleba, because his analogy of it I quite liked, which was it's like a throughput. There's a conversation here around how fast are things running, and I like to think of it as a river. So you've got a river of resources that are constantly being grown. Because you're basically generating resources from nothing, it's not entirely true, but it is kind of true. You have to think about how to then optimize and make this base really work. And I think I never quite appreciated that. I think I just came in with my Nauvis mindset, and I created a base here that I think was not quite right. So as with everything, and this is a little bit of a tip for you in life, if you're going to do a big change in life, get a piece of paper out and maybe just do some thinking about what do you want to achieve. I did that with the Vulcanus base. I kind of drew in my head a little bit of a kind of thing to say, well, I wanted some form of cell manufacturing. So very much on demand, very much quick and simple, trains moving quickly. And I have the same thought process for Gleba here. And my thought process is as follows. I want Gleba to actually be a mega base. I know it's crazy, and I want trains to run here, because this planet is really just built to be a main bus. I mean, you basically just put everything onto a conveyor belt, and then you're rushing it through the base with the view that once you've got it through the base, whatever you've got left over, you probably should just destroy and burn. It's a bit like Fulgora, I guess, but the idea is it's about throughput, so you shouldn't really sort of dilly-dally. Now, what we're going to do, we're starting here with some basics, is because we now have kind of advanced to kind of end game technology, there is a form of soil that you can actually create, let's say, better farms. So it's the over soil, they call it. And I now can create that, but you need to transport biter eggs to Gleba. So this is just what we're doing here. We're just going to look at getting those biter eggs, and here we go, fast forward. Here we are, they've got here. And this is what we're creating. So we're creating over soil. Now this means we can actually move the farms. So in terms of that kind of project plan of things to do, number one is the farms. They're probably going to have to move. We're going to have to really think about how the farms will actually operate now. Because currently we've done it based upon wherever the farm is. With the new design that we're looking to try and do here, we need to think about potentially moving them. Now with trains, that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it means things spoil. So the trains have got to be quick. So again, we may go with the 2 train carriages, 2 train units and 1 train carriage. A 2 and a 1 and a 1, is it? I forget, but it could be something simple like that. I think we're probably going to do double-headed trains, but again, maybe not. Maybe we just go for an entire loop, but you'll see as we progress. Now, the design drive I want here is an elevated railway. That's kind of what I would love to have here, is a 2-tier system of railways. Now, that's something I've not really done before, and I started to dabble with it on Nauvis. In fact, Nauvis really benefited from it, because where we have things like iron and copper foundries, getting a large number of trains to them, which is already in a city block, and I don't want to move the block, it meant that actually using elevated railway setup with basically holding pens has worked wonderfully. So that's probably step one. Step two is I also want a thing running on the ground as well. So the thought process again is, here with conveyor belts, these are fine, but I don't want to use them. So I think when we start to kind of look at our machines, our factories, I think we start to realize that these are not necessarily going to work. And we have to think of it much more as throughput. And that's kind of the design drive. And again, a lot of this initial setup is really just getting things to from orbit down here as well. So you can see that on the outside, we've started to build what is an elevated rail. Now, I don't think we're going to keep that. I think my initial thought process with this base was, it's already a block. Do we replicate the slab idea of Vulcanus? And I think the answer is no. We're going to do something a little bit different. And I think this comes back to, again, if you don't do this, I would recommend doing this, is you go to things like Reddit, you go to things like other YouTube, obviously, and go and look at what people are doing. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Like, you know, my partner is an absolute, you know, she loves going and basically decorating things. If I literally walk out of a room, I'll come back in and the whole thing's changed. It literally feels like that. And the thing is, she lives on LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, what's the word? Oh my God, my brain's gone completely. But it's Pinterest, there you go. Pinterest is exactly the sort of thing you need to be looking at to get these kind of ideas. Okay, maybe not for Factorio, but I mean, I use Reddit. And Reddit to me has always been a pretty sound source of design. Because to me, when you think about the designs you're trying to do, you want to try and think about, well, what would give you pleasure? Because I played with Trouble for a long time, and she had this view of the game, which is, I want to have as many machines as possible. So I don't want to use beacons and I don't want to use modules even in the things. So if that one little laboratory there makes 10 jelly in 10 seconds, we'll just have 100 of them. And that was that's an example of a wonderful design decision, because that means then that the bases we produced when we played were just absolutely vast. They were ridiculously over the top. But that was a pleasure. That gave us pleasure sort of looking at that kind of gameplay. So when you come to things like Vulcanus, you know, again, we went very heavily on beacons and very heavily on modules because I wanted to fit everything within a cell structure. So for Gleba, it feels like you have to kind of, well, for anything, you have to kind of make your thought process of what do you want to get out the game. I'm a big fan of railway in this game. I do think the railway is thoroughly enjoyable. And while we don't necessarily need one on Gleba, I think that's the angle we'll go. But again, the first thing is to think about, well, what is the capacities? How big do you build certain things? How big do you build some of the machines? Because you honestly could go completely nuts. I'm still not entirely sure Gleba is a terribly safe place either, because I remember an awful lot of pentapod attacks that then disappeared when I did a bit of trimming of them. But here we go. Here's an example of what we're trying to build, the Hexagon rail. This comes from Ethereal Question on Reddit, so big thank you to him. I didn't get the blueprints from him. I actually reverse engineered them because I saw how he'd done it. And basically within hexagons, it's basically about the junctions. As long as you make a third, and third, which makes no sense, junction that works, you then can string it together into a structure here, and you can make it as big or small as you like. Again, come to the Discord if you want to get any of these blueprints, but I'll show you my process because in a very long-winded way, this is important. This step here is the measure twice, cut once, because the idea here is we want to make sure. So here, look, this is a great example of how my process works, is I will build on Nauvis in the distance where bots won't build it, a blueprint. And again, the idea here is to build something that says, is this big enough? Is it small? Is it right? Do I have to think about how the farms will completely move? And you can see the design. It's a wonderful hexagon. When I first saw it on Reddit, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to build that. And it's really now thinking, well, where would that make good sense? And I don't think Vulcanus would have benefited from this because, again, the demolishers, and you've got to do a bit of work. I didn't really want to build it on Nauvis because already had that base. So for me, this is where Gleba absolutely steps up to the plate. And the idea is we're trying to figure out how big will this base be. Think about each of the edges of this hexagon. You're going to have to build defenses, and that's actually what we do. Which way round do you have it? Do you have it, horizontal, vertical, portrait, landscape? And I think this is like the happiest I've ever been in a game, really, because, I like the thought that we're doing something interesting, different, and there's a passion for it. I mean, I can give you one word of advice in life. If you have a passion for something, really make sure that people know that you have a passion for it, because it defines people. And I think this is a wonderful example of what I want to try and do, which is to put the farms within the squares. And you can see it roughly fits. So for me, this was like, yeah, I think this is going to work. And then that hexagon that we just tried is a normal railway structure. This hexagon is the elevated railway that sits above this hexagon. So every single hexagon that we have will have effectively an elevated railway where the trains that are going longer distances will just go up to there and off they go. I think this is probably the most exciting base I've ever done in Factorio, and this is why I'm quite excited. And I imagine like most people have not even stayed around to this length, but you have, so thank you, because to me this is like, yeah, this is what I want Gleba to be. This is my vision of Gleba. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't really care if it doesn't, because what a journey it'll be. But look, it kind of fits. You can see everything's going to roughly fit. May have to do some rebuilding of the farms, but this could be then basically every edge of the hexagon has a defensive wall, and we will have our honeycomb on Gleba. And I'm really excited about this. So there we go. If you're interested in these blueprints, they are completely untested. So, you know, come use them at your own peril. And if you're interested in how I built it, then just hit me up on Discord. But I hope you like that, and I hope you're ready for Gleba Megabase.